Perfect.
Do
I
it.
am Caroline Matz. I'm part of the Detections AI team. We are so excited to have you for the introduction to Detections AI. We're going to go through a platform overview and demo some of the capabilities of how we turn threat intel and how you can turn threat intel into detection rules in just minutes. So, without further ado, I will hand it off to you, Tim. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and you'll introduce Aaron as well. And if you didn't catch it before, there is an invite code to join the community right at the top of our screen. And that community or that code is community. So I'm looking forward to having you guys, and I will pass it over to you. Thanks, Tim.
Sweet. Thanks, Caroline. All right. So yeah, this will be done by Aaron and I for the most part. My name is Tim Peck. Been in the cybersecurity space for about 12 years now. Detection engineering and research space for last 5 or so. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about me out in Colorado. A little chillier here and start to like as it gets a little cooler. Um, but yeah, really excited to show you the capabilities of this platform, especially since I believe I'm more of a traditionalist, produced hundreds of detections by hand, and kind of excited to show you like what you can do with the power of community and AI. So that's a little bit about me. Aaron.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Tim. So hey, everybody, Aaron Bogue. I'm the head of community here at Detections AI. I think I know quite a few people on this call, obviously not everybody. So thanks for joining. We really appreciate it. We are a new company, a new platform, a new community. So we felt like it made some sense to do some training. I know a bunch of people can't make it always to these things, and some of you may have to go or do other work or whatever. We are recording this. We will post it on our Carolyn's new YouTube channel that she's building for us, which is awesome. So we'll send everybody the link after the training's over, so that you can rewatch it or forward to people if you're interested. And then, of course, we're always here for question support. But during this call, if you could please put questions in either the Q&A little at the bottom of Zoom, there's a little Q&A app you could put in there. It's another way you can keep questions anonymous if you want. Otherwise, just throw it in chat. I'll do my best to answer them as we go. And then at the end, we'll leave some time for Q&A. It's a big webinar and a lot of people, so we probably won't be unmuting anybody. So just put it in chat and I'll answer it, or Tim will answer it. So thanks everybody for showing up. Tim, go for it.
Awesome. Let's dive in. So yeah, the purpose of this is going to be kind of a platform overview to start. So we're going to start out super high level, kind of work our way into the weeds, and we'll take you kind of down the rabbit hole a little bit. Kind of towards the end, what we'll do is we'll kind of show you some more advanced features of the site that have to do with like combining multiple sources of threat intel to produce a single detection, and kind of how that changes the dynamic, right? When you start adding in, I guess, more recipes into the the pot of the detection you're trying to create. So cool. Let's dive in, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm kind of recovering from a cold, so my voice is not the way it usually is. And if it cuts out, then yeah, apologies in advance. So sweet. So, everything starts with a problem, and the problem that we're trying to solve are kind of highlighted in 3 bullet points there, but I'm sure you could each relate to this scenario, right? Like a new CVE dropped. Um, you're already kind of behind the last like 3 or 4 critical CVEs. You're working on coverage for, you've got requests coming in. So, the main problem that we've faced traditionally with research and detection efforts are, the number one is the duplication of effort, right? So say that critical CVE drops, Fortinet, right? It's usually Fortinet. Hopefully nobody from Fortinet's on here. At that point, anybody who's impacted, once that CVE is released, we're all kind of working on the same thing. You've got threat researchers, detection engineers from vendors, you've got, impacted customers themselves, all working using the same sources of information to accomplish the same goal, which is being able to detect this threat. It's a huge, huge waste of effort when you really think about it. A lot of this can be centralized and managed on a single platform. Threat intel overload. There's a lot of good sources of information out there, tons. When you think outside of like threat advisories. You've got like really smart people's socials. You've got GitHub accounts that track threats like this. So another problem we're trying to solve is kind of the bringing all of the threat intel into a single source that works with detection engineers and in detection engineering to produce some actionable output. Decentralized repository. Yeah, that kind of leads right into it, right? Kind of centralizing everything. And I mentioned threat intel overload. Sometimes it's not so much the overload, but the underload. You might have bits and pieces of information according to one vendor, and maybe you're looking at the CVE advisory, but from a detection engineering standpoint, there's not a lot of great data to go off of. But when you start combining multiple, you can kind of start to paint a picture. So this is where we're stepping in. So detections AI. So first and foremost, detection AI is going to be a community, and we're bringing in the smartest minds of detection engineers, cybersecurity professionals, all working for the same goal. So since we're building a community, we're introducing community things, right? Like groups, being able to, having some social aspect around detections to, help encourage and support those and find those quality detections really easily. So when we're building together, we're building better. Actionable threat intel. This is super critical because it's hard to build good detections off of, meaningless intel. You just can't. So the backbone of detections AI is going to be strengthening the product with really, really good threat intel. And that's something myself and the team do is we curate the product and we tailor the product with really, really good threat intel, and while keeping it current and actionable from a detection engineering standpoint. Single source for detections. So, our goal is to be the place to go for finding detections. So critical CVE drops, where are you going to go? We're going to go to the community, right? That's where that's where we're going to be building. So that's our goal. That's the solution to those problems that I mentioned. And we're wrapping this all in together using AI. So why use AI besides the fact, everybody's got to use AI, right? So AI, we already know detection engineers are smart. They've been in the cybersecurity space for a while. They generally know what they're doing. AI is there to augment and to speed things along, and kind of think of it like a symbiotic relationship between like man and machine, right? You combine both, you get really good logic and guided detections with the speed and performance of AI. So reduces analyst toil, increases efficiency. So, being able to process huge data sets, and then take all of the interesting bits that would be used for building a detection, and whether those bits are coming from threat advisories, or whether they're coming from raw log data that can be difficult to sift through, or POC code from some exploit. We can combine all of that into a single workflow that produces something very, very quickly. Improve detection fidelity with rich context. This is huge too, because you think about it, things that AI is really good at is, like I said, summarizing data, like at machine speed, right? And the cool part about this, the part that gets me excited, is the fact that, an AI can take all of that data, whatever it is, and get the cool pieces out of it, right, that you're looking for. But it can also introduce context that came in as like training data, like something where we might be lacking is like mere humans, like deep OS internals, right? Like for instance, one example I like to give is that's really popular right now is LNK file execution. We see that through phishing emails, phishing lures, pdf.lnk, right? Trying to get you to click on that to execute code. What's the context actually behind that from like a detection engineering standpoint? A lot of people might not know, or it's something you're going to spend a lot of time trying to determine. So this is the type of stuff like deep OS internals is stuff that's going to augment those detections automatically through context, in addition to the payloads, I guess, or the data you're throwing into the AI. So also scales threat intelligence across the organization. This is useful too to fill in like human knowledge gaps. So for instance, say you're a Windows shop right? You've got like a really good AD structure. You've got a lot of Windows engineers. You've got a lot of like automated PowerShell scripts floating around in your org. It's a well-oiled machine. But then you have like those couple Linux boxes hosting some web apps that just experienced a CVE. You know, this is, and your skill sets may not quite pair with how to manage these Linux boxes or how to detect threats on them without really digging into them to understand them. This is something where AI can kind of step in and fill in a little bit of these knowledge gaps for the sake of producing really good quality detections. Excuse me one second while I grab a drink. How it all comes together. So next few slides we'll go over kind of a really high level platform overview. This is stuff we'll be covering in the demo, but it's really good to see it just kind of a really high level here. So the discovered detections. So you can kind of see the section highlighted here. This is where all of our detections live. We try to make it as easy as possible to find it as what you're looking for with multiple languages. Some of these include Yara, Yara-L, Splunk, KQL, Sigma. You know, whatever your flavor of language is, we try to support it. Groups. This is, you know, if you're building a community, this is kind of a really important feature to have, being able to collaborate together as a team. So once you're registered on the site, anybody can create a group, and we'll kind of go into this a little bit more detailed as to like the different group options. Community intel. So like I mentioned, intel is critical. There's two types of intel we'll get into, community and personal. Community intel is managed by our team. We, again, try to include the latest, the most impactful, and of course, intel that produces high quality detections. Yeah, we support multiple types, URL files, CSV, text, PDF, and instruction sets for LLM. Detections library. This is kind of like your zone for anything that you do on the site. Rules that you've uploaded or imported or created all go here, whether you've decided to publish them to the community or not. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like once we start creating some stuff, what those differences are and kind of where they end up landing. Yeah, one important aspect here is we'll get into is GitHub account sync. Actually, sorry, I lied. We won't be getting into it. This is more of an advanced feature. Maybe someday we'll do like a webinar on it, but it just allows you to sync your GitHub account with detections AI for, you know, change control, those type of things on your end. But definitely feel free to reach out to us too if you want some more information. At the very end of this webinar, we'll provide some contact information. Sweet. Now what you've been waiting for, let's get into the rest of this will pretty much be demos. So kind of highlighting the platform and some of its capabilities. So let's jump in here. So once you're registered on the website, on the platform, this becomes your landing page. You can see I have activity feed here. Easy place to just start and search if you just want to roll with it and go. We have featured detections kind of listed here by, you know, top level contributors. You can like, and you kind of got like your social buttons, like, share. We'll kind of get into that a little bit deeper. Over on the right side here, we have this Act on Intel section. And this is a curated list of prominent, I guess, threats in the industry. Again, intel that produces high quality detections. And we try to keep this current and very relevant to kind of the threat landscape and what we're currently seeing. So yeah, that's kind of this page. Let's check this next page out here. So you can view intel. You can see it takes you to a page that kind of highlights that intel. If you click on the header here, it takes you to that actual publication by Google Cloud. You can see we added it like a week and a half ago. This one's on sales law drift, which I'm sure is still kind of burned into everybody's brains. This one features an attack by UNC 6395. But yeah, this is kind of what you get here. A nice description. You get an executive summary. You can copy this and add it to a report if you need. One new thing we recently added is threat intel scoring. This, from a detection engineering context, rates how this bit of intel scores based on 6 criteria: IOC quality, TTB details, etc. You can click these little carrots to see what contributed to that score. Obviously, IOC qualities are very good for this one. But yeah, and if you keep scrolling down, you get a list of detections that are published to the detections AI community. And these detections are directly referencing this piece of intel as a reference. And that's why they end up here automatically like that. So cool. Let's see. Let's go into groups. We'll kind of skim through this before we start creating. Yeah, like I said, groups really important for community building, working in teams. Anybody can create a group. Just give it a name, description. There's different classifications: public, moderated, private, with their associated descriptions. Private, you have the option to set it to unlisted or listed in this case, which has to do with detection and group visibility. But yeah, these get a little bit deeper. We won't be like creating groups on this call, but it gets a little bit deeper with like join, invite codes, stuff like that. Again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any other further questions on this, or feel free to play around with it yourself. It's overall super, super intuitive. All right, let's go to, we'll kind of skim down here. Detections library. Like I said earlier, this is kind of where all of your detections will end up being saved. So right now I have just this one for this account that I'm using that's saved in draft status. So that means only I can see it. Yeah, really easy to, let me move this Zoom thing out of the way. Add or upload detections. Obviously, you can create them and save them with AI, but if you've got some flat files, some YAML files for Sigma, you can just upload them straight here. And then, yeah, some other features up at the top, such as GitHub, which we talked about, upload, create, etc. Let's see. So Intel collection. Like I mentioned before, we've got two different types: community, personal. Community, like I said, is controlled by us. Generally, these score really well because we test to make sure that these do actually produce really, really good detections. Come over here to personal. This is everything that you've added to the platform. If you click this link, I'll kind of show you later on in the demo where you can add this. It'll automatically get scored and it'll generate descriptions, and a really easy way to start detection building from one of these. So let's go back to community. Actually, let's hit discover real quick. This is where all of our detections live. This is probably one of the most important sections. As you can see, we have quite a few of them, 10,000 plus detections. We try to make it as easy as possible to find what you're looking for. By default, it's sorted by most recently updated. And as you can see, just in the last several hours, we've got quite a few added to the platform. We try to do our best to make finding what you're looking for as easy as possible. So, for example, all of this is done live. You don't have to hit like any apply buttons or anything. So if you're interested in KQL, just check that box. And now we're filtering on KQL, which that's kind of strange. Of course, we're doing a live demo and weird things happen. There we go. All right. So you can see it kind of shuffled out everything that wasn't KQL, and it filtered it down to 2,100 plus detections. So one cool thing you can do is you can keep compounding filters. At this point, you could search only KQL rules. So if you have a CVE you're looking for, drop it in there, and you'll get detections relevant to that CVE. So for instance, if you're interested in maybe KQL detections produced in the last week, you can tick that box. Obviously, nothing really changed here because this is also super current. We got 31 detections in the last 7 days KQL. So say you've got a favorite contributor. We'll pick on Stephen Lim here, KQL wizard on socials. You may have heard of him. And now we've got a list of all of Stephen Lim's rules that he's produced in the last 7 days. So say you like this view, you would come back to it, you find it useful. What you can do is you can actually save filters here, kind of a lesser known feature. Give it a name. Hit save. And that shows up right in save filters. So anytime you come back to this discover detection section, hit that save filter and you're off running. And then if you decide for whatever reason you don't like it anymore, you can delete it here by clicking on that manage button. Cool. And you'll notice, like, as we go through the website, this particular pattern where we have a search and filters over on the side is pretty normal, and it all works the same no matter where you are. So if you go to Intel, kind of the same thing. The parameters are just a little bit different. Let's go back to Stephen Lim here. So since we're focused on kind of creating a great community, you can click on people's profiles to learn a little bit more about them. So if they've added social links, you can click on those. You can follow or unfollow them at any time. We got some stats here with how many detections they've produced, downloads, followers, following. We get those same filters that we just talked about. Another thing you can do is click on these headers to change the sorting options. So if you want to see which rules that Stephen Lim produced that has the most likes, you can click on that. EDR freeze made waves a week or two ago. We can click on that. And this takes you to like the main rule screen. And we'll go in depth a little bit more about this later. So let me go back. Awesome. That kind of covers the detections. Let's jump back to threat intel. Let's go back to that Google article that we were looking at. Google Cloud, sales loft drift. I can say that. So say you wanted to create a detection from this particular report. Pretty easy, right? Click create detection. If you click this download arrow here, it will give you options for creating detections in different rule languages. In this case, we'll just stick with Sigma. Pretty well understood. We'll just roll with that for now. And that takes us to the Create with AI tab. And you can see it did a couple things. It loaded the intelligence automatically as a URL. It gave it a kind of a default instruction, analyze the sales loft drift article and suggest detection opportunities. And friendly AI, of course, it'll help us with that. And then it gives us a really, really nice description. It's a little bit different than the one found in the Intel collection. It has a bit more actionable data associated with it. So if you like this better, you can click this button here down at the bottom right, copy it out if you need to add that to an email or a report. So the suggested detections, it gave us 5 of them. So yeah, so we got 2 here. We got malicious user agent strings, UNC 6395 associated IP addresses. You can use these arrows to kind of toggle back and forth. Unusual SOQL queries, exfiltration of sensitive credentials, anomalous drift app logins. Let's take a look. Let's go with unusual SOQL queries. Let's see what it gives us. So click the generate button directly under it. AI will do some thinking. One cool thing you can do is click this little down arrow next to it, and it'll actually give you a breakdown as to like how it's formulating this rule. Overall, pretty complicated process. I'll let you speed readers kind of work your way through that one. Sweet. All right, so we've got our Sigma rule based on that publication by Google. So we're looking in those Salesforce logs for queries that were identified by Google to contain something interesting or actionable. Overall, pretty good rule. So at this stage, if you like it, you can save it by clicking this button here. So I'll go ahead and click that. So I just double clicked and I think I did something weird, and that was my fault. So let's see what this does now. So it does attempt to validate it. Let me try that again. So that is strange. That's the first time I've seen it do that. If it's going to have issues, I'm just going to regenerate it. So it's funny, you run this dozens of times before a demo and it works perfectly, and then you do the demo and it just falls apart. Let me just run through that one more time. Sorry about that. But AI being an AI, And that's kind of a flow. If you do encounter an error, they're generally extremely rare. But if you do run it again, odds are it'll work. I'm sure you're all at this stage pretty familiar with AI and its shenanigans. So let's see if we can get another suggestion that's close to what we were looking for. So we got object queries. I think that was probably, yeah, let's go with that one. So let's generate that again. Let AI do its thing. Okay. Slightly different name, but it looks like it's, well, this one's kind of baking in some extra stuff. Okay, you know what? Let me just go ahead and save it. I do want to get through this so I can show you some of the really cool advanced features. Okay, this one's working fine. All right. So this takes you to an edit screen. So over on the left side, you've got the rule, the raw rule. Over on the right, you've got extracted metadata. Copy it out if you want at this stage. One thing I like to do when I get to this screen is hit this autofill button. And when you scroll down, you can see we do some MITRE ATT&CK, categorization, platform, product, service. It kind of fills out this data a little bit better. One cool thing you can do is this is a fully editable environment here. So if you wanted to make any change, it'll be automatically reflected over on this side. So if you wanted to add your own name, put Tim in there, you could drop it like that. And you can see under the share as author, it's just adding that automatically. And this works with pretty much everything: title, description, references. Drop another reference in there and it'll get added. Cool. So you like the rule, looks good. At this point, we can go ahead and save it. You get two options: save changes, update and publish. This will save it to your detection library, but also publish it to the community. So it kind of depends on what you want to do at this stage. Right here, I'll just go ahead and save it. So you get a nice description, nice page. It's tagged out real nice. You got your rule here, and some options. Obviously, you can copy it out, go back and edit it. Share it. This is once it's been published. This will kind of uncloud itself. You can download it, and this will download that YAML file directly to your computer. I believe the file name is the file ID.yaml. You can translate it. Let me show you that real quick. This is pretty cool. So if you hit translate, so say you wanted to do some threat hunting, like on a SIM platform, you could translate this into plethora of other languages, QRadar, you name it. Click that go button, and that will use AI to translate that into a whatever query you specify. So let me go back. All right, yeah, delete the rule if it's not what you wanted. Publish it. Again, this is your chance to publish it in the community if you so choose. And yeah, that pretty much covers it. So pretend for a moment that we got a really good TTP-based rule. You like it, send it, great rule. This one's kind of a mix of both, which I haven't seen it do yet. But say you wanted an IOC only rule to kind of accommodate this one. You want to do some threat hunting, look for indicators over the past 30, 90 days based on a report. So if you come back here to create with AI and you click this little button in the top right, looks like a little winding back clock. This is your session history. And what you can do is click on that, and this should look familiar. It's going to take you straight back to where you were when you were interacting with the AI. So what you can do, you can see I chose this one here. Let's go try to find one that's more TTP or IOC based, sorry. Access from Tor exit nodes, network artifacts. This looks perfect. So let's create a second detection based on that. So AI is going to do its thing. use this opportunity to grab a drink. All right. All right. We got our second rule. So we got a good network indicator rule. You'll notice one cool thing that it did is it added a second tab up here, and you get this little currently viewing mark on that rule that you just created. So you can actually switch back and forth between these two, depending on what you need to do, or if you want to save a second one. So yeah, at this point, I'm not going to save it. Just kind of wanted to highlight the difference and show you some of these more interesting newer features that we've added to the platform that make it a little bit easier for creating multiple rules from the same source. So sweet. That kind of covers that. So let's take it up a notch a little bit. So what I'd like to highlight now is the difference that context can make. So we can obviously, like you saw, create rules from threat reports, and it does a pretty good job. Gives you some good suggestions. You can edit them, save them. But let's focus more on like enriching threat reports with maybe some raw data. So we'll do that kind of in two phases. First, let's come over here to personal intel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some nightmare fuel. I'm sure I'm going to bring you back to a time that was much darker than today. LDAP nightmare. Very terrible CVE. Almost every org was impacted by this. Critical CVE. This is a really great report from Safe Breach that covers a lot of different aspects of the attack. They go over it in depth. So what I'm going to do, let's add this report as personal intel. So I can just click this add personal intel, give it a URL. Give it a title, hit add URL. So what it's going to do is it's going to import it, and it's going to do all of the descriptions, generation, the scoring, all of that automatically. So it's going to generate our own personal report page on that. So cool, gave us a score 7 out of 10, not bad. Let's click on that. Awesome. So at this stage, doesn't look like we have any community rules for this particular report. There may be some LDAP nightmare in there if we were to search. But what we could do, we could create a detection from this if we wanted to. But what I'd like to do is start with that. We'll just create another Sigma detection. I jump around between rule languages a lot. That's why I'm always clicking that down arrow. So just to make sure it's going to give us a Sigma rule. So same thing, loads the report, analyze the report, give us some detection suggestions. All right, we'll just do the first one, suspicious DNS SRV queries. Let's generate a Sigma rule off of that. Let's see what it comes up with. Awesome. So we got exactly what we asked for. I'd say as far as rules go, this one is pretty okay. It might be prone to false positives. Kind of going off of those Windows DNS logs, looking for those particular query names from an SRV. Overall, okay. Yeah, I'd be worried about false positives with this. Probably needs to be tuned to your environment quite a bit. So I'm not going to save this, but kind of take a mental picture. So what I'd like to do is let's use that same report, but enrich that with some raw logs. So what we can do here, kind of play around in this section here, this create with AI. This is always a good starting point for creating a rule. So we've got that report here, but here's some raw logs. Travis Green was kind enough to provide us with some successful exploitation logs in Windows. I believe it's just Windows application. There may be more in here. But let's take this and let's do both. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the site. I've got that copied in my clipboard. So we're going to do Sigma. What we can do is click this Add Intel button. You get the options Community, Personal. Let's throw that LDAP Nightmare rule in there. Click the Add button over on the right. And you can see we got this little new box here, New Intel added. So what we can do is we can actually just drop that Intel straight in. And now we've got two. So we've got that LDAP Nightmare report and that gist from GitHub. Sorry if I'm saying it the wrong way. I'm sure 50% of you will agree with me. And let's go ahead and run with it. So one cool thing is that you can do is we get these quick prompts, help me create a detection from this report. That's obviously what we want. So I'll just go ahead and click on that. So since I'm using language that's very targeted, it's not going to suggest detections for us. It's going to just create a detection based on the two. One thing that's important to note is it may ask me a follow-up question here. Nope, it's not. Like 50% of the time it will. It'll ask me if I want to create one from one or the other. And this is fully interactable. You can talk with the AI or kind of modify your detections once you receive them and kind of play around with it that way. So there's been times where I've dropped them in there and it's like, sure, which report would you like to generate the rule off of? And I just put in both and it runs with it. So it seems like it's kind of a 50-50 on that one. All right. It's getting there. More to process. All right. Now we've got a much more targeted rule. This one's going straight in those application logs. We're looking for those fault codes. This one would require very little tuning, if at all. This is a very, very good rule. So yeah. Yeah, no complaints over this one. This one's very good. So what we could do at this point, let's go ahead and save it. We like this rule. It's going to take us back to that edit screen that we saw during the previous run. So looks good. I like it. Let's hit that autofill just to populate the metadata, the tags. Perfect. Looks great. Now I'm going to just save that one more time. Make sure it looks good. Tagged out that CVE beautifully. All right. So if this looks good, what you can do is you can publish this straight to community. And if you're logged into the website now, you should see this rule go live. Jump over there real quick and show you. Yep. CVE 2024 49113 LDAP Nightmare is up. So, and if you come to your detections library, you can see that we have another rule that we just added that's in publish status. So yeah, anything put into the detections.ai community is set to published in this case. Sweet. That about covers the demo. Kind of started like super simple to something a little bit more advanced. At this stage, that kind of wraps it up. Let me jump back over and we'll do Q&A at this point.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim, for that. That was awesome. I have been answering some questions along the way. I have a couple that I want to get to. Aaron Kraus just asked about security. I was typing a response, but I'll answer it since I'm in the middle of talking. So yes, we have done a lot of security testing on the site. We are a vetted community. We don't just let any internet riffraff in, but at the same time, we want to be careful with security. We're doing our best. We have very, very bright minds working on this. Also, fortunately for me, I have about 8,000 smart-ass security people hacking at me every day. We actually can watch the prompt injections come through and see the guys messing with it. It's interesting. And in fact, even just if you guys have tried, there's like an image prompt AI where you can create images. Can't upload images on our site. You have to create them with AI. And I mean, thousands of hours of people messing with this and trying to prompt inject me and get it to write horrible images and perverted images and you name it. Just unleashing anything to now almost 9,000 security people has been a very interesting journey. I've never quite done this before. Usually the things that I have are bought by a handful of companies and they don't really care. So that's been pretty fun. Um, so yeah, we're trying to do the best security that we can. We know people keep private intel on here. We know people keep private detections on here. We're doing everything we can to keep it secure. Also, we're a startup. We're resource limited like anybody else, so we're just trying to do our best. If you have anything, hyper sensitive that you don't want, if you're very, very nervous about, TLP red intel kind of things, just be careful. Also be aware that the minute you hit submit to the AI, we've lost control of it. I think everybody in here knows that, but just like I've run into people who don't know that, they think it's private AI. It's not. It's regular available LLMs. We wrap a lot around it, but it's not ours. So hopefully that answers your question about security. I think the next question here was adding log files. So if you go to personal intel and you go to add, and Tim, maybe you want to bring this up while I'm talking about it. Um,
Yeah.
we're we're just starting to mature around this and figuring out the best way to present it to you guys. But if you go to personal intel, there's three things you can do here. One is to add a URL. The other is to add files. So you can do PDFs, you can do log files. There's a little tag here for this as a log file. You can also do other JSON files, things like that. I've done, JSON dump outs from Intel sources, a bunch of different
Yeah.
stuff.
We've done CVEs. Those work
CVEs
fine.
you can do, and then text instructions is prompts that you can
Yes.
save. So I've worked with a lot of our friends that are using this on, even baseline stuff like what do you call fields? What do you use for authorship? How do you notate? How do you name rules? Really cool things like that. We're just starting to really mature this. So everybody on this call that's interested in trying it out, what's nice about this is behind the scenes, you always have our formatting controls and our context controls. So it will still produce quality rules, even if you do weird stuff in there. You won't get an invalid Sigma rule back. Um, so hopefully that answers your question. Again, if you have support questions about this after, like reach out to me, reach out to Tim. We can get on a call and figure it out. Um, let's see. How many people joined today's session? I think we got well over 100 at one point. So that was pretty cool. Let me see what else you got here. Um, thank you, Adam. We are trying to do an amazing job. Thank you. I'll be honest with everybody on this call. I was blown away by how many people are interested in this. When we built it, I was like, if we get to 500, it'll be a miracle. Like I didn't know there was this many Ds on the planet. And we got to 5,000 in 30 days. We're almost at 10,000. So pretty surprising, pretty great. I've heard of a lot of people, this is their first real tool to do AI anything other than just ChatGPT day-to-day stuff. So that's pretty cool. So thank you for the feedback. Um,
Solid question about integrations. TI source integration is
yep.
possible, is it?
Yes. So we uh, and this kind of ties into maybe a few people's other questions. And before anybody asks about API, I'll answer this one in the same way. Um, we are basically following the GitHub model of anybody can build on our platform, anybody can share on our platform. If you're a community, if you're an open source project, we don't want to restrict that. We want to empower you. If you're a big company and you want to do big company things like library management, integrations with SIMs, atomic testing, AI librarians, these things, obviously that's our commercial model. I don't necessarily know exactly where the line is going to be drawn there yet. But yeah, if you are interested, we are looking at people who want to help us partner on early access to do integrations with their tips or with their sims. Obviously, we're a startup, so you have to be adventurous and willing to work with us. But yeah, we're thinking about it every day. We have a partnership kind of already built with RecConnect, and we're working on MISP. But if there's another tip that makes sense to you, that is what you use, let us know and we'll start working on it. We have not opened up our APIs to the world yet, um, primarily because there is a habit of pipeline companies to take entire libraries from people like us and put it in their product and say sort of it's done. This certainly happens a lot with Sigma HQ. It happens a lot with a lot of repos. We have a lot of rules and people have shared a lot of rules, and I'm not very interested in people sort of claiming them. So you have to kind of figure out how to do that responsibly as we go forward. So hopefully that answers your question. I think it's Don again, Don. Hopefully that answers your question. Um, Keith asked a question about the prompting. This is an instruction, loads it into the prompting versus trying to format the response. Again, it's a new thing we're approaching. We basically modeled it on private GPTs and GEM, and you can add instructions that will make it think differently, and there's instructions that manage output. So that's really what that means. Um, you can try different versions of it if you want to prompt engineer it. So one we come across a lot is like an URL, like the UDM mapping and the field mapping. You can load your UDM mapping, and your URL rules will be more aligned with your naming convention. Again, we're working on this. It's new. The whole site's only been up for 100 days, so hopefully that helps people. Um, awesome. So I think that was it for the
I
questions.
think
Appreciate.
there's actually a couple open questions
Oh,
in
excellent.
Q&A. So
Perfect. I was just checking there. CrowdStrike is definitely coming up. We are working on that. We are working on Sentinel-1, and we are working on Suricata for the network folks. So those will be the next three that we do. I think the next two will be Sentinel-1 and CrowdStrike. Uh, it's a lot of work to add a language because we have to not only add the translate, but we have to train the AI on how to speak that model. And so, we can't do everything at once, but those are the ones that we're doing next. Again, some of this will be influenced by a first, paid customers and what they want. But as far as the community, we pretty much did what the community wanted from day one, right? So we knew we had to do Sigma, KQL, YARL, whether or not you like it, those are the big sims, and that's the way the world works, and so that's the way we went. But yeah, certainly we're always looking at new options. For Chris's question here, we use a little bit of all of them. I'll be honest, like some of the summarization is Claude or Anthropic, and some of them are OpenAI. The big engine of the rule gen is Gemini. So we're a big Google shop. We're in the Google AI startup class for this year. They're very helpful to us as far as resourcing and making sure our AI works great. So we've had a lot of luck with Gemini. We love working with the Google people. Um, that being said, like if something fits a different use case, we use it. The corporate enterprise version you can bring your own AI. So if you have a partnership with OpenAI and you prefer to use that, you can point it at that, and it'll get very, very similar results because we built all the prompting for that. But again, like, kind of when you're a startup, you have to pick your battles, and so we're pretty heavy in Gemini. But again, we use them all. I think the image gen is actually OpenAI for your profile pictures. There's a bunch of different stuff that we do. And then I think there was one more question. Yes, and this came up a few times around quality. And are we vetting these? And I obviously you hear the term AI slop a lot. Um, we uh, we're trying very difficult. We're trying to not be difficult when it comes to sharing. We're trying not to shame people for being like, oh, this is not the best detection in the world. And obviously in security in general, there's a lot of gatekeeping, but I would say in detection engineering, there's quite a bit of gatekeeping. Um, People like to get up in arms about, oh, this has IOCs, it's crap, or this was AI assisted and this is a bad rule or whatever. Like all of us have 8 hours a day to write detections. We don't. So I would say we really want to encourage sharing. We're not about making people feel bad. We obviously don't want to be spammed with garbage either. We have a lot of controls in place to make sure people don't spam us with 1,000 crappy detections. In fact, right now, for the most part, the people who share detections to the community, it's a big stage. It's a little scary. I know most of them, not all of them, but I know a lot of them, and these are top end detection engineers. So I'm not trying to stop that flow. We are working on better feedback mechanisms. We are initially going to add those two groups. So if you want full commentary, if you want to make fun of each other's detections, if you want to, iterate in a group setting and say like, "Oh, this is bad. Do this way, whatever." We're going to have that, but it'll be within groups. And we're kind of counting on existing social structures to mediate some of that. I am not trying to create Reddit for detections. Like, I don't know how you guys know how hard that stuff is to moderate, but it's a nightmare. And commentary almost always goes bad on the internet. So we're trying to figure out what that looks like. AI scoring. Um, the nice thing about doing Intel is I don't care about hurting the vendor's feelings. Like if we take in a Cisco Talos article and we say it's crap for creating detections, I'm not hurting Cisco's feelings. They don't care. Or Palo Alto or anybody. If I go to a person and say, hey, your detection, it's a 12 out of 100, it sucks, is that really the best? Like LinkedIn doesn't judge your social post. As all of you know, GitHub doesn't judge your code. There's more crappy code on GitHub than anywhere else on the planet. You can ask AI to judge it, but by default, it doesn't say like, "Oh God, don't use this integration. It's garbage." So we're kind of following that path. Um, Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. I saw a couple more things come in. Iris asked about Splunk. There is SPL. I should have said that when I was talking about the Sims, SPL. And then I think Matt just asked about KQL and the difference between Defender and Sentinel. I'm not even sure Microsoft knows that one yet. To be honest with you, I'm trying to figure that one out and what makes the two different and better and train the AI on it. So no, I don't have that as like I don't have KQL Defender, KQL Sentinel set up yet. Um, maybe I need somebody. I'll be honest, Microsoft of the companies has probably been the least interested in this as far as like helping out or talking to us. So if anybody knows anybody at Microsoft that can help me navigate that, that'd be awesome. Everybody else has been very excited. Yeah, so the way we do this is we train our context models on like what a language is supposed to look like so that we always get accurate detections. It will literally not produce a Sigma that doesn't meet the standard or a KQL that doesn't meet the standard. Data mapping in fields, that's trickier. I don't have it trained on that. And I probably should. I just haven't done that work yet. There is a lot of KQL sharing going on the platform, but I haven't really got to the point of differentiating between the and I know they also just launched a big, like flat, cheaper data lake option that I think has some form of KQL support that's supposed to be pretty cool and sort of a nearline search across old data sets and stuff. That sounds really cool. I just don't know the answer to that. Um, let me see. I think that's it for questions. I hope I answered everybody's questions. I'm here. Tim's here. Tim, I don't know if you want to bring up the last slide here. Um, I'm probably already connected to most of you on LinkedIn, or Tim is. But you can always connect to us on LinkedIn. I'm the only Aaron Moog on LinkedIn, I think, if you search for me. Happy to connect with anybody. If you go to the site underneath your profile picture, there's a little drop down for support. If you want to fill out a form, comes right to me and Tim. We'll answer questions. Or obviously just email us. I'm Aaron at detections.ai. He's Tim at detections.ai. It couldn't be easier. We're very easy to find. So massively appreciate everybody joining today. It's so great to see some familiar names and some friends. And I think I even saw a couple of our advisory board guys pop in here. So pretty great. It's great seeing everybody. Thanks to Tim for the presentation
You bet.
and Carolyn for keeping us on track here and supervising us. God knows we need it.
We
I'll say it one
will,
more
sorry, I
time.
know, I'm
Sorry.
sorry, I was going to say exactly probably what you're about to say, Aaron. I just saw a question about the recorded version. We've done a couple different sessions, so we're going to make sure it's edited super clearly and you get all the good details, and then we will be sending that out. We're also working on a YouTube channel, and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel by the end of the week. So that's just Detections AI, but Aaron, I'll let you wrap us up. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's perfect. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we're here if you need anything. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye everybody.
Thanks, everyone.